You have to be able to see the end in the beginning. And that way, everything else in the middle won't matter.
Alright, you guys, welcome back to the Law School Mentors YouTube channel for episode 2. I appreciate you guys for tuning into the last one. Hopefully you feel like you got to know me a little bit better. But this time around, I want to introduce you to two of my closest friends and really my circle, the people I ran with all throughout law school, from start to finish. On my right, I have Nia. I'll have her introduce herself in a second, and Kennedy to my left. But in this episode, like I promised you, we're going to get into what's important, but why it's important, right? And why it's important to have a strong circle. All right, so first up, I'm gonna have Nia introduce herself, just a little bit about what you've done while you're in law school and where you are now.
Sure. So, my name is Nia Mack. I'm 27 years old. I went to John Marshall Law School, undergrad, U of I in Champaign. During law school, I was involved in BOLSA. I was the secretary of that. Moot court, law review. My first summer after law school, I went in-house. I was at ComEd in their legal department. Second year, I did a summer associateship. Is that how you say it? At Jones Day in Chicago.
Period. I did not need TV either way.
That was my second summer. And then after that, I got an offer for full-time employment after graduation. And so right now, I'm an associate at Jones Day.
Come on.
And yeah.
Working.
Working. Working hard.
Working hard. Another way. All right, so to my left again, we have Kennedy. And Kennedy, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yes, so I also went to John Marshall Law School. I went to Hampton University for undergrad. My last name's Harris. I'm Kennedy Harris. I am 25 years old. During law school, I was involved with the arbitration team. I did BOLSA as well. I was the rep for BOLSA. I did SBA, the Student Bar Association, vice president of that. I did the advanced clinic where I was able to do some work helping to get a convicted felon off, up for parole. What else in law school? I did the moot court program, moot court honors council, best brief.
Period.
It was winning for like the best oralist for defending my brief. I worked for Liberty Mutual Insurance my first summer after 1L, and my second summer I had a summer associate position at Swanson Martin & Bell, which is where I currently work as a full-time lawyer, as an associate doing litigation. So that's where I'm at.
I forgot to say that.
Cool. Yeah, well, she's doing litigation too, so. All right, well, this is going to be a conversation, a pretty organic conversation between friends. Feels like we've known each other. Well, I know we'll talk about Kennedy and I. We've known each other a little bit longer than Nia and I have, but law school will definitely make it feel like we've known each other for a very long time. The things we've gone through, the highs, the lows. I just noticed that 25, 26, 27, I mean, we all have so many similarities, and that's what we're really here to talk about, right, is the people you surround yourself with inevitably sort of, it paints the path of where you're going, right? And I'm so grateful just to have had two amazing dynamic individuals, really from start to finish, and to have individuals that not only kept you and held you accountable through it all, but elevated you, right? And just, we'll get into it all, but just from the beginning, being able to say like, here's our goals, right? And to have people who not only push you higher for those goals, but we achieved everything we said we were gonna do. So where do we start, right? I guess we start from the beginning. I guess the first question, right, is you know, Kennedy and I, we knew each other a little bit beforehand. We were never super, super close. We actually went to high school together. But we all went to different undergrads, and boom, we're in law school, right? So, if you guys remember, like, what was it that sort of attracted each of you? I'm curious, what attracted you to me and Nia? And, you know, Nia and I were in the same section, so it was, you know, there's not many black people in law school, there's not many minorities in law school. So, you know, let's just get into how I guess we met and what formed a connection.
So for me, luckily I knew Yoshi, so I think that I was always like that level of familiarity of, oh, okay, like I know him, I know somebody in law school. It's so scary at first, so intimidating. But Yoshi's energy, he's always so positive and fun and like willing to make a bunch of things work. Like, oh, let's study hard, let's go out, let's do all this stuff. And actually through Yoshi, I met Nia really officially at Yoshi's birthday. I remember I'd seen Nia before, and I didn't really know anyone at Yoshi's birthday, one all year. And I remember seeing a familiar face, like, oh, there's Nia. And Nia's just such a beautiful person, so kind, so welcoming. And so, I'm serious.
Look,
and so it was just very organic. Like, as far as, I was not in the same section as either of you guys, but I always kept coming back to my damn, Yoshi, Nia, like always working hard, always really kind and uplifting. Even though at first we weren't studying together, like whenever I'd see you guys, there's always laughs and smiles, and that ended up just burgeoning into something more. But that is what gravitated me towards you guys at first, and then I got to really know you guys, and I was like, oh my gosh, like they're so amazing, you know, like they stuck with me for life. That's it. And that's
if there's one thing y'all are gonna realize throughout this is how positive Kennedy is. She's always gonna have something great to say about you,
even when you don't want to hear it.
That's right. That's right. And during finals time, she's the one gassing you, like, you look so great today. Like,
remember when it went off on you that one time?
Yeah, we'll get into all that. All right. Well, Nia, what about you?
So I think we first met at like orientation or like before classes officially started. Okay, but I don't think we talked much for it.
It wasn't much, but I remember we went to this event before we were all admitted, right? There's admitted students events.
Was that for black people specifically?
Nah.
Okay.
It wasn't. No, so it was a Cubs game, and it just so happened I felt like three African American people sitting next to each other. We all trying to scope out like who's going, and we like, yeah, like you sitting by us, like come up here. And this before we all knew like who was in what section, so it was like you don't know who you're gonna really click with. But I think that was the first time I for sure met you.
Okay.
But I guess let's talk about
Let's think. So going into law school, I didn't know nobody, so I was already in the mindset of like, I don't know. They know me, so they know I'm like a shy person. I'm not just outgoing, just willing to meet new people. I'm more reserved, sit back, observe kind of thing. So when I met you guys, it was like, okay, like they seem cool. This might be something. Like you said, it's only a few of us, so we gotta come together at some point. So I think we met. It was 3 of us, 4 of us total. I think we linked up before classes. Remember we studied together? We so-called studied. Before class, we was reading contracts. This is before class had started. But we already had assignments, reading assignments. We went to someone's house, we studied. This is the first time we had like linked.
Oh.
This was after the Cubs game. Anyway, it doesn't really matter.
Wow.
And so, yeah. It started off as like 4 of us. We kind of met. She was, everybody was cool, kind of getting to know one another. And yeah, I think me and you kind of just, I don't know, dipped off and did our own thing. I think we just had just an instant kind of connection and vibe, just talking and getting to know one another. And so we just clicked. Kennedy, I do remember meeting you at Yoshi's birthday party. I remember you coming up to me and you were so freaking excited. And I'm just like, okay, hey girl, like, all right, cool. just came up to me with just good energy right off the bat. Like, you were so happy to meet me. I'm just like, wow, like, this girl don't even know me. That was our first official meeting.
That's funny.
And I think just over time, we just started to getting to know one another. Like we said, we weren't in the same section, so we didn't really talk as much. I think it just happened organically. Over time, we kind of just started getting to know each other, and then we was like, that's my girl.
Period.
All right. Well, I think you guys said a lot of important things that, you know, people watching this will want to know. And one of that is, you know, were you looking for this coming in, right? Because to your point, you're shy. I'm outgoing. Well, how would you characterize yourself?
I'd say I'm probably like the in between you and Nia. Like,
Yeah.
Bad.
Okay, fine. Yeah, you won't
No,
go.
you're friendly.
You're fine. I'm friendly. Yes, you're friendly too.
Kennedy has 3,000 friends in law school. Let's just
Here
start
we
there.
go.
Yeah, everyone knows Kennedy.
Go.
But I guess knowing who you were, right? You guys are very strong individuals, regardless. And I felt like whether you had a circle or not, you were gonna be successful, right? And there's certain people, like, you know, their work ethic, their attitudes is just there's something successful about them. Again, surrounding yourself around success is the, you know, the recipe to create something bigger. But were you looking for a group, right? Like, because I think some people go in, it's like, okay, I'm gonna do this I'm gonna go in, I don't need any distractions, like, because study groups can be a distraction.
Yes.
Or like finding your friend, it can be a distraction. And so 1L being is so critical. You know, run me through how you were approaching law school, and was this something you were looking for, or, you know, let's talk about that.
So, I'll be very honest. I went into law school closed-minded. Like, I didn't want to make any new friends. I was like, I have best friends from undergrad. I'm not here for that. And so at first, like the first, I'd say few months, and we started in August, end of August, September, October. Like, it wasn't until the end of October when I started to kind of interact with people in my section. I was very reserved at first. And it wasn't until, so midway through the semester when I was like, oh, okay, like, these people are kind of cool. Like, you guys weren't in my section, so when I'd see you guys, like, around, but as far as the day-to-day, it took a while for me to open myself up, and I did meet some incredible people who I'm still good friends with today, but that didn't necessarily translate into, I want to study with these people. I want to be on this journey to success with these people, because I don't believe our mindsets are necessarily the same. And that's something that I really love about you guys, is to the point you just made, Yoshi, like, wow, who you surround yourself with. You and Nia inspire me and elevate me in every way. And even when I think sometimes maybe on the outside looking in, people will look at us and be like, wow, like, you guys have done this and that. When we talk, we're always like, okay, we want to do this and that, even if we've done that. Sometimes we don't even realize that, wow, we've accomplished X, Y, and Z, because we're on to the next thing. And so it's nice because we're never complacent. We're always grateful, and I think we feed off of each other. And so to your initial point, no, I was not looking for this. It just, to what we said before, happened organically, but it did start with me opening up my mind to being receptive of meeting new people and new energies and things like that. So that's what I would say.
I don't think I was necessarily looking for it either. I think that I came into it with the mentality that, not that I was closed-minded to it, but if it happens, it happens. But I was also prepared that, like, I'll give it a try, but if this don't work, I'm prepared to seclude myself and do what I have to do. And so I think at first I was a little bit hesitant as far as, like, you know, just studying together all the time, or like constantly, you know, being in study groups. But once I saw that, okay, this is cool, this person wants to succeed as much as I do, like, they want to learn it as bad as I want to learn it, they want to understand it, which was Yoshi, since we were in the same section. But before that, it was kind of like, well, I don't know anybody. If I meet people, cool, but if not, like, I'm here for what I'm here for, and I'm going to get it done regardless. So, yeah.
So, I think you guys talked about, you know, the mindset of how you approach law school. But when forming these relationships, and if that was sort of the effect of having like like-minded individuals, the effect being, I mean, I can run with this person, right? Like this person is gonna hopefully hold me accountable, you know. But let's get into study groups, right? And first and foremost, right? You go into law school, you don't know what to expect in all facets, right? I just remember being like, it's so much information. I don't know how I'm supposed to study, how much I'm supposed to study, like what we're doing. I remember my biggest fear was, is this gonna pay off? Not for the sake of like a job per se, but it's like we're spending so much time, right? And if I'm spending this much time, what if I'm spending it in the wrong areas, right? So I'm interested to, before we even get into like forming study groups and how we approach the learning process through study groups, when you went into law school not knowing how to traverse this path, right? Like, what was it about you that sort of you felt was going to guarantee your success? Because now looking back, right, hindsight's 2020. You got a job, and it was all before graduation, from a school where most people say you're not going to do X, you're not going to do Y. Many students graduate without jobs. So I knew I walked in like, if I take out any loan, I'm talking about any penny, this is an investment and it's going to bring dividends. Because I'll be damned if I graduate and not have a job. So that was like, for sure, like I don't care what I have to do. To your point, right? Like I don't know if I was even looking for people. I think it's nice because there's gonna be times where you don't want to do this, but to have someone who, I'm competitive. You know what I mean? So I need someone who's gonna push me to be like, nah, I want to beat them, right? Like, because at the end of the day, that's just who I am. But like, and I don't know if I ever really like, but Nia beat my ass the whole time. But
we were neck and neck.
Yeah, but that look, she's still second place. Alright, but look, so not knowing what success looks like. What was it about your mindset that you felt was going to guarantee that? Because I can tell you, like meeting y'all, I can tell you what I felt. But again, hindsight's 2020. It's always easy to get that confidence when you got the job, you got the bag, and now it's like, oh, I always doing what I was like, right? It's easy to say everything I did was for this, right? But in it, that's why I want us like, not many people see us right now and it's like, wow, they probably are always successful, XYZ. But without the job, humbling, like in the trenches of the library, is these 70, 80 hours we're putting in going to turn into the job we want, or just turn out, period? The grades. I mean, look, the first semester, you're putting in all this time and it's like, I need A's, right? Like I'm doing all this for not to be average, right? And so that was my fear. So like, what do you feel like it was maybe about each other, or like, cause you guys we knew each other before the success.
Absolutely.
Right.
But I always felt like the confidence and the underpinnings, the foundation of success was always there. So I'm interested to see like, what was it about, like what was your mindset going into law school that you felt like was going to guarantee that success?
You want to go first? You
Sure.
got anything to say?
Sure, sis. I guess I would say my work ethic. And I think something that Nia said to me during the bar exam, which really has resonated with me since, I remember being just so tired, so stressed, and talking to Nia like, oh my gosh, like I'm not getting it. Like what's going on? And she was like, well, as hard as we're working, like the progress, the success, it's inevitable. Like it's going to come, so it's just keep going. And so I think that when I think of our law school journeys, the one thing I knew going in was, I know that if I know my work ethic, I know at least that much. So whatever comes my way, if I just push through it, I know eventually I will find a way, make a way out of no way. So I think for me, that was, I guess, what eased a little bit, right? Some of those concerns, because I was very much concerned. And especially I came from an HBCU, right? So I felt like there was this additional kind of, I don't want to say burden, but like I have something to prove because I came from a Black institution. And I need everyone to know that Black institutions produce excellent, students, people, whatever. And so that was something also that was on my mind. Hi, you.
Rookie makes
Welcome, Rookie.
yeah, welcome everybody. Welcome. This is Rookie. We're the best. He's Rookie. The new addition to the fam. But Nia, so to Kennedy's point, right? You held her down during the bar, and we're gonna get to the bar exam. What turned out to be probably the hardest thing I've ever done. But one and done's.
One and done. Glory to God.
One done. But yeah, talk to me about your mindset coming into law school.
I think similar to Kennedy, I think I had the mentality that I'm willing to work hard and I'm willing to put in the hours, put in the time to outwork all the rest of it.
Period.
At some point, there's gonna have to be some point of separation.
Yeah.
And I felt like that was time, putting in the time. Whoever put in the most time, that's who's gonna be successful. I feel like there's no other, I feel like that's just what it comes down to. Like, anybody can be successful at law school if you're willing to put in the time, the effort, and the work. And I feel like that's what I came in with, like, I'm gonna do whatever it takes. Like, it's no other option
Yeah.
but to be successful at this. Like you said, you're like you really don't know much of anything. Everybody's on the same playing field. It's not like, oh, you just have this innate ability just to succeed at law school. I don't think that's true. And so if you have the ability to put in the time, if you want it bad enough, like, it's inevitable. You have to be successful.
So whatever it takes. I think that's easier said than done.
Of course.
From just the hours in the library, I mean, not knowing exactly how to to put your energy into certain things, learning your process as to how I even need to approach these classes, learning the formula. So, what do you feel like was the most influential thing that you did that during your time that sort of set you up for success? So you guys talked about your work ethic, right? Willing to grind it out. There's a lot of people who put in the time but don't have anything to show for it, right? Maybe sometimes it's just that you're not being realistic and you're spending hours in the library but you're really not efficient, right? And I'm sure there's been times like that, but like, just talk to me about whatever it takes, but also like channeling that to make sure that you're on the right path. Like, how did you make sure you were on the right path?
That's a hard question. I guess, to be honest, I feel like at least first semester, it's just kind of hard to be sure that you're on the right path. So really getting, even though we had, at least my section, we had a little midterm, which kind of gave us a taste of where we were at, which was, helpful, but it wasn't really until first semester's grades when I was like, okay, this is how I've performed. How can I perform better? What do I need to do? What do I need to change as far as my study patterns? Where can I improve? What professors do I need to go see? Where did I go wrong? Let me go review this exam. And so I think after getting those grades, it was like, okay, this is okay. I want to do better. How can I do better? Oh, like, I know we all meet the dean's list. That's nice. Like, how can we continue to just climb that ladder? So I think, to your question, making sure I was on the right path, first set of grades was really the test. And then even then it was like, well, was this a fluke? Right? Let me see if this can be repeated, but on a higher level. So I think second semester was really like the true testament for me of like, okay, let's see how I can really perform. And because I felt like after first semester, there was blood in the water. Because now other people have seen how they've performed, and everyone's very competitive. Because it's like, oh, okay, well, so-and-so heard that this person's doing this or whatever, and now people aren't being as, at least in my section, weren't as open, as inclusive with studying and sharing information and all of those things. So I think that the first year really helped to mold knowing for me that I was on the right track. By the end of the first year, I'm like, okay, like let's get it. Like I think I know what needs to be done.
I'd say probably midterm time was a little bit of a wake-up call for me. I know in one of my classes, I was like, okay, no, I'm not happy with this grade. I'm not feeling this. So we gotta change something up because this for final is not gonna work. So I definitely think that was a wake-up call. I think that was a turning point for like me realizing, okay, I need to study a little bit harder. I need to go back and review a lot more. And yeah, this is not gonna fly for final season. So I think having that as a little bit of a preview of what the final was gonna look like, I'm so okay, 10 times harder. Like it's time to really, really grind out and ooh, that first semester studying for finals.
Oh my goodness.
that was rough. That was rough. Yeah. What would you say?
Yeah, Yosh.
I mean, I think a big part of what guaranteed the success, especially after midterms, was the mindset shifted. Like, I just want to make sure there's no regret here,
Yes.
right? And I also realized that, you know, I think it's a good time to get into the study group aspect. Like, contract specifically, there was one topic I remember we went over in our study group, option contracts. And, you know, some people in the group may really feel like they know something. And, you know, confidence is a huge part of that, but you gotta be able to learn from the teacher first, you know, like the book, the materials that they provide you second,
Right.
and then anything else that's going to supplement, like key to supplement, like we can get into supplements, your thoughts on that, but like anything that's gonna supplement that's gotta come last, right? So that includes study groups, right? Because, you know, like I said, I like to think I'm a confident person, but there are people who exude confidence, and maybe we take that as confidence doesn't mean they're right. You know what I mean? And so, learning option contracts, I didn't do my due diligence to go to the teacher, to go to the right resources. And it's like, oh, okay, I learned, that makes sense in the study group. Like, and sure enough, it was on the exam, and it was wrong, right? And so, I think a lot had to change, and a lot of it was like sacrifice and being okay to be like, this is my journey. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't want to get to the end and be like, oh, why blame this? Or like, only thing I can blame is myself, you know? And so, you know, to Nia's point, to Kennedy's point, it's what are we willing to do? And it was being able to eventually make the switch of, okay, you have all this material thrown at you, but now it's time to piece it together. Now it's time to review it. Now it's time that when we get to the end, you can't cram, right? That's not an option. And a lot of it was sacrifice, right? I wanted to get into, like, you're talking about Fridays, spending all day Friday. Most people, like, I get to Friday, no class, like, I'm gonna go to the bar, like, whatever it is, and don't get me wrong, we had our time where we went and kicked it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But with nothing under our belt, without anything to speak for the goals that we had, I was willing to put all that to the side, right? And I'm super social, like, I love to go X, Y, Z, but there were plenty of times where we had to say, like, nah, we shouldn't do that. We can't do that. And then, I mean, I think Kennedy was really great at that. It's like, nah, like, I need to go back and look at page 14 of
I hate you.
of our review. But no. So let's talk about study groups really quick. What's your thoughts on them? Like, did they work for you? I know, you know, just for me, I don't think it really worked, right? Because I don't think I needed anyone. I think everyone's smart enough that you don't need anyone.
Yes.
Like, everyone got there probably on their own laurels and strength. But there is a lot of accountability there. To have, like, I call Nia my accountability partner. Like, I talk about it all the time, but like, Nia held it down. Like, we were in the same section, we were running the same material, but we didn't really, like, study together. It wasn't like, okay, we're gonna read this section and talk about it. Like, it was more so we're in the same room doing our work our way. And if we had questions, we could bounce off each other, but it was more so to be around someone who matched your work ethic. And then collabing that towards the end when it was time to study. But for the most part, we all were doing our own work, But then when it was time to, run law, get into, which we'll get into, but like, when it was time to put it all together, I think we like used each other to elevate in different areas. So what's your thought on study groups?
So I echo your sentiments in the sense that I think study groups can be helpful. I think that it's very important though to make sure that you know where you're at individually and that you understand the information and then that you're accountable for where you're at. And my concern one all year was, well, one, I'm social, so it's easy for me to I start talking about like other stuff that doesn't have anything to do with what we're studying, which is a waste of time, and you get to a point where there's no time to waste. And so being very cognizant of that. And then also, I think that I was concerned with, like I said, I need to make sure I know where I'm at, and then I can build from there. And I think sometimes when you're studying with others, you might think you're more advanced than you are, or even the reverse of that. And realize when you're sitting for the exam by yourself, because you don't sit with a group of people to take the exam, that you don't know the information. And so I prefer to study, I'd get together with some people in my section to do multiple choice problems, like we would time ourselves, then we would review. Or, there's a specific thing we've all already looked at individually, and now we're going to collectively come together and review it, or talk through it to try to help each other. But I didn't necessarily believe in let's have a study group where we study together all the time throughout the semester. That wasn't helpful for me, because I think it's just nice to have an individual, like you study by yourself and you can have someone you bounce that energy off of, or because sometimes you're tired. Like it's nice to have company, to sit next to someone who it's like, damn, I'm in the trenches, but I'm in the trenches with my friend. With my home, literally. And so I would say that study groups can be beneficial, but I think it's very important if someone is going to use a study group that they choose the people they study with wisely, because I also saw people in my section who were in study groups all the time and weren't getting anything done and weren't performing well. And so it's like, if it's advantageous for you to do that and you can do it, then do it. And if it's not, or if you need to cut some people out to study group, do that too. But just be careful with it, I would say.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Like you said, I feel like we were mostly it was just kind of like just to be there with each other. Like, we're mostly studying by ourselves, but if I don't understand something, we can talk through it. Also, like, if I've been on my phone for too long, hey, what you doing? Like, just having somebody to get you back on track. And also, I think we utilize study groups for, like, maybe going over, like, a practice essay or, like, multiple choice. And it's funny because I think I just learned that, like you guys said, you have to be accountable for yourself. And, like, at certain points, it was like, okay, we might be studying together and this person might say something, that's not how I understand it, and now you're getting me confused. Like, but at the end of the day, I can guarantee you that every single time, I will not take what you say, like, period. I'm gonna go back and get that book myself and figure it out. Cause like, I can't trust what you say, I'm sorry. But let me just get it real quick and make sure. Okay, cool, he was right. Yeah,
That's
good,
facts.
you got it.
That's facts.
I'm gonna say that, I'm gonna be able to say, like, I looked it up myself. I'm sure that this is the correct answer, because if not, it won't work out.
So study groups, we talked about, but let's talk about like some of, I think, the benefits, right? So we ended up sort of becoming a study group, even though we were cross sections. But I think it is more so for accountability. Like I said, calling our shots, saying like, I'm motivated. We wanted to get into big law. We wanted to get into these spaces where you didn't see it, right? And so to do what others haven't done, like we had to do something special in a sense. And a lot of that came down to confidence, work ethic, all these things we're talking about. But I want to talk about running law, right? And the benefit of having strong study partners. Because to your point, we all had to have our own foundation. But when it came down to enhancing each other, running law, this principle that we're about to get into, was one of those ways where we really could elevate each other. And so, one of y'all want to explain what running law is?
Go ahead, Lee.
So running law is basically just like taking one area of the law, one concept, with a group of people, and y'all just running it, explaining the law, and getting into all the elements. You can start with a topic, you can start with, if you want to go in chronological order, if that makes sense. But basically just setting out all the rules, all the exceptions, everything that you need to know on this area, we're going to talk about it. You just need to be able to spit it, because if you can spit it, the idea is that you'll be able to, write it on the exam. If you can explain it verbally, then.
Yo, for my Greek people out there,
Yeah.
like it was legit like that. Like law school is a lot like going through a sort of process to the point where you're putting so much into learning this material, but enough to recall it under pressure.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so running law, to me especially, is like we all understand it to this extent, but here's you missed this. Like, and so one person may be looking at the outline like, okay, Kennedy, let's talk about battery. Everything you know about battery right now. And that's uncomfortable. It can be. It's because if you're scared to be the person who's like, that's helpful, because it's like you need to get your together.
Yep. Right. But
But then B, I may know it well, but Nia over here, like, she knows everything. And so when it comes down to like running law and just having study groups, I think the elevation is really what you use it and to supplement. So let's get into, involvement, right? I was super involved.
Mr. and King of
super
Involves.
But
shameless.
okay. But outside like that, I feel like between us three, we have three different approaches to law school, right? I was involved with as much as I could. Being president, I had my vice president, vice president next to me, which was revolutionary in itself.
Hey.
But to handle your business, like Nia was always about handling her business, and it didn't have to be you were all out in this, I don't want to say spotlight, but like you just handled your business undercover, and it was like silently did
The silent assassin.
Did silently
Nia
did
is the
everything.
silent assassin. Is she not?
Facts.
Just
Screw
say
facts,
it. The biggest monster
I'm
in the
gonna let
room.
y'all have it.
Okay.
What I want to get at is the fact that like we had different approaches,
Yeah.
still met at the time. Like so, you ended big law, we all ended in like great big law like jobs. So like the question becomes the approaches that you took. Like, what do you feel like was necessary in your approach that guaranteed some of that success of getting a job, right? So it wasn't involvement. You didn't have to be. Some people may be out there like, I gotta be super involved. I don't want them to construe that in order to get to Kirkland and Ellis, you need to be president of the school, because clearly that's not true, right? So handling your business, what does that look like?
Handling my business. I
'Cause
think
we're about to get into like interviews, because again, getting opportunities for interviews, like what did that look like for you?
Wow. So I think it came down to being disciplined, being organized, and the follow through. And I think the follow through, as far as when we think about just perfecting our knowledge, going back through practice exams, meeting with professors, all those things as far as studying went, like exhausting all of the resources, the options, using our time wisely, the discipline as far as knowing when you can go out, when you have time to do extracurriculars or do whatever, and when you can't. And then I would say what was the other thing I said? The third thing? I'm like, I can't remember the third thing I said now. Well, I think it might have been work ethic, but whatever the third thing was, I would just say that overall it was really important to run my own race. Back to what Yoshi said earlier, even though it is such a competitive environment, I think one thing about all three of us is even though we uplift and motivate each other, we all innately as individuals have this drive, this energy, this thirst, this hunger to do more, to be better, to elevate constantly. And so I think that it was always us trying to motivate ourselves to be better than we were the next day. We all used our positions from 1L summer to get us to that next point. So I think just going full circle, taking what we learned from the day-to-day, carrying that into the next semester, and building off that each year to just do more in every way, I guess is what I would say.
I just say like my approach was that like grades are first, academics comes first, period, point blank. Also just realizing like, you know, it is important to get involved. It is important to, you know, have those resume fillers, 'cause to be honest, that's what they are. And so I did want to get involved. I did want to do, you know, certain things, but, you know, if I had an assignment, if I had something else academic related, honestly, everything else is going to be on the back burner. There were times law review drafts were late. I mean, like, law review was important. Like, it's a great opportunity. And I'm very grateful that I was able to be on law review, but, you know, that wasn't always my main focus. At the end of the day, I need the grades first. If I don't have the grades, I'm not going to be on law review. So, like, that was my first and foremost, focusing on my grades. Everything else is kind of, you know, it comes second. It's important to have those opportunities. It's important to be involved, but it's also important to remember, you know, why you're here. Law review ain't gonna give me this job. They're probably not gonna ask about it.
Girl.
But
Girl, that's a fact.
Okay, so next let's get into what we all were in law school for, right? To get a job. And man, I'm having like flashbacks. But let's just get into the mentality of how you approach the job process. I feel like a lot of people wait for the jobs to come to them, right? And a lot of us aren't afforded the opportunity, either maybe from our schools, like we're not heavily recruited. Like certain schools are heavily recruited, right? The top 20 schools, they have all the big firms come, et cetera, et cetera. If that's not your reality, what do you do? You know, so how did you lock up, what do you feel like was the key to locking up your position? Let's just put it that way. It's probably not something you can put it like pretty quickly, but I can go first.
Yeah, go ahead, Yosh.
Okay, well, I think the first thing I would offer is you have. I think the first thing I will offer is you have to have the mindset to like put yourself out there, right? Because again, I sort of alluded to it, but I didn't wait for the opportunity to come to me. I would be damned if I waited for OCI. By the time OCI came, which is on-campus interviews, which is in August,
Yes.
I had already done like 20 interviews from fairs, right? I drove all the way to Indianapolis to make myself more marketable and just to pursue opportunities, right? Creatively speaking, I realized in the process that in Indy, there are opportunities to even come back to Chicago because some of the Indy firms had Chicago offices. So it was just another way to expand. But I felt like a big part of that was I wasn't going to wait for that job to come to me. I was going to spread my wings, spread the opportunities out, and go after, like literally be a shark in the water. So I think that was a big part of my success. And then getting in the interviews, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, it's confidence, right? I think, you know, what you bring to the table, that it's enough. And many of us we're under this impression that, oh, our school defines us, our grades define us. And to an extent, they do. But the question also becomes like, you define you. And for us all, and this is really a prelude to what I want to get into of like what we want to start as a pipeline of like individuals, which starts with your mindset. Your success starts with your mindset, but we all ended up successful. So what was your approach to landing your job?
Well, I know preparing was really, really big for me. Prior to OCIs, I also did a job fair. And prior to that, like over the summer, I was coming to the school, meeting with my academic advisor. I was sending her my resume. We were going over my resume. We were doing mock interviews.
Yes.
And for me, that was very important. Like you said, having the confidence is important. And for me, I don't think it always came naturally. Not that I didn't, believed that I was capable, because at the end of the day I did. But just being able to portray that to others. And that was something that I wasn't really sure of myself when it came to like interviewing. So preparing was very, very important for me. The mock interviews was very, very helpful. And also just really doing a lot of research on the people that I'm interviewing with, the firms that I'm interviewing with, and just making sure that I've done everything that I can do to walk into the interview and be as confident as possible. And so like the prep process was like, I'm taking notes, like when I'm on the website, I'm having questions prepared, I'm having things to talk about, it might be something very small on the website, but if I found it interesting and I think I can turn it into a talking point, I'm gonna do that. So like the prep process was like really big. The interviews, they're so fast, it's 15, 20 minutes. The callbacks are obviously a little bit longer, but just being as prepared as possible. Like I just wanted to walk in there like, okay, I got it now. Like I'm prepared.
Yeah, I mean, you guys summed it up very well. I think that, preparation, right, is like the antithesis of fear and nerves. And I think that to Nia's point, like meeting with our academic advisors at the career center or whatever was so helpful. Just preparing, learning the things that I need to work on in my interviews, like certain things I shouldn't be saying, certain things I should pay attention to, looking up the people I knew who were going to interview me on LinkedIn to see if I could find out additional information about them. Going through to make sure there were things that I knew I wanted to maybe highlight about myself or accentuate in my interview. Just really knowing the firm, knowing myself, and like you put it, Nia, like just being able to exude and portray that I know this firm or this job, whatever, brings X, Y, and Z to the table, but this is what I bring to the table. This is how I'm an asset to you and why you want me over whoever else.
Yeah.
And so I think that preparation, confidence, like Yoshi and Nia said, it's the key.
Yeah.
It's the key.
So confidence. I think this is one of the most important things. I'm always talking about confidence. Walk me through your journey with your own confidence, right? I think it's easy to have confidence when you have the statistics, right? It's easy to have confidence when you land on the dean's list. It's easy to have confidence to say, oh, it's working. And that boosts the confidence. But I think you still have to have a level of confidence in yourself and in your ability to even land in those opportunities, right? So to have confidence to even apply, because again, the norm wasn't to end in Bigelow. I mean, it's like, most of our OCI, by the time I got to OCI, a lot of it were like mid-sized law firms. So the confidence to even walk into a Bigelow like I deserve this, or I have the opportunity to even land this, that's crucial. It's an imperative part. So what was your battle of confidence like throughout your process of law school?
That's a hard question. I do think that like imposter syndrome, as far as like, do I deserve to be here? How did I even get here? Is this just luck? Is this a fluke? Right? All those things definitely were constantly on my mind during law school, especially more towards the beginning when you're just unsure about how you're going to perform and where you're going to end up. And so I think for me, going back to I think the first question you asked as far as like what did we know, like what helped us, like that we knew about ourselves, like knowing we will do whatever it takes. I think knowing that really helped uplift me and remind me when I did feel like, wow, well, for example, like a lot of people who maybe didn't just go straight through or who've worked or have different experience that I didn't have, where I would feel a little intimidated at times, or to the point about our law school, feeling like, oh, all of us, if we wanted to, we could have transferred, but we didn't. And I think that's because we all knew, I can't speak for us, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but we knew we were going to be successful wherever we were. Our success wasn't determined or dispositive on the law school that we went to. Like that wasn't at all going to be the end all be all of where we ended up. And so I think that our work ethic and knowing that we all had made it this far and we're willing to do whatever it took to get to that next level. And then being around like-minded individuals who help just take that to the next level. Like you feed off of it. I fed off of that from both of you. So I think all of those things and seeing, getting different tastes. When we were summers, that second year, it was like, and I felt like the things I was seeing, like, wow, right? This is just a taste of like where our lives can be, like what's next for us. And I think this is just a piece of the puzzle. So I think that was really, really dope too.
And last few things I want to talk about with you guys, because these are some of the more critical parts, right? It's like as a 1L, you're trying to figure out yourself. You're trying to figure out how to be successful. You're trying to get a job, right? You're trying to get an internship. And that's where you probably need the most advice, right? So people who run across this are probably pre-law 1L students who need that sort of advice, need this sort of spirit that's like, well, what should I be looking for? But the opposite of confidence is the lack. And there's a lot of things out there that can destroy your confidence.
Yes.
Bad grade.
Yes.
No from the jobs. I mean, as many firms that we interview with, got a lot of no's.
Oh, for sure.
Now,
For sure.
the way I approach that again is you can be the full package. And you can be the best package out there at the wrong address.
Hello.
You feel me? So
Hello, you.
So when we had that and had the denials, had those times where it was time to reshape your confidence, what were you doing to do that? Because look, real talk, like at some point it's like you start to get down on yourself, right? It's like, is it me? You know what I mean? Like, and you giving your all, you're putting all of it into it. So what did you do when you got those no's, or when you started to get down on yourself?
I think what was important for me was you guys. Having people that are gonna pour into you and who, believe in you when you don't always believe in yourself. I feel like I told you this before, Yoshi, but like there was so many times that like I didn't want to do it anymore. I'm so tired of studying. I'm just so over it. And he was just like fed into me, like just really just like pour into me. It was like, wow, like if somebody else can believe in me this much, and this is after weeks of knowing each other, like. It's just like, wow, like I was very taken aback. I'm still taken aback by it. But just having people who pour into you is so important. And having that support, I feel like it truly changed. Like it changed the game.
The fact, echo Nia's sentiments. I think that in law school and even during the bar exam as well, like. A lot of it, I feel like in the legal field, there's going to be many times when there's just high stress, whether it's for finals, the bar exam, in your job, in your career. So it's so important to have that solid support system because things are going to happen no matter who you are, no matter how smart you are, no matter how hard you work. And so really just thinking back to, like you said, we all had times where we were tired. We had real life things going on. We were not understanding the material the way we felt like we should have. We were overwhelmed. We hit a wall. And so having you guys there, uplifting me, reminding me, helping me through things, us, being there all day. Okay, we need a break. I remember us studying for literally, I think it might have been during our con law, because there's several exams, but our con law 2 exam, we had ordered pizzas. We took a break and watched a Nicki Minaj video on the screen at school. And
good form.
Good form. If anyone has seen it, literally, if anyone has seen it, I mean, this is
everyone
probably
knows that video is very memorable.
Literally, it's kind of like soft porn, but whatever. We watched it at school. And we got back to it. We studied, all night. We had the 24-hour study, and we made it happen.
Yep.
And
made it happen.
And that's the moral of the story.
Okay, so you mentioned it already, the bar exam, and we talked about confidence, and there were plenty of times where you probably had to drag us to the finish line, right? And our bar process was different in a lot of different ways. One of which is it lasted for forever and a day, 4 months. 2 days, not. But no, so let's talk about what really was the last part of this process, right, of becoming an attorney. And really, I feel like was the crux of our relationship because it's during quarantine. So we really had a choice not to see each other, you know, and that's a time where you really gotta be selfish. They tell you, you know, block out distractions, family, friends. And so anyone you reach out to, it had to be a very conscious effort. So to see us go through our process and to be still very close, linking up multiple times, calling each other, running law over the phone. Let's just talk about it, right? Like, what was the journey like for you? What was the hardest part? What was some of the things you want people, you feel like, to know about their process or just anything like that? Hardest thing we ever did, right? Could we agree?
Yes.
It's like,
Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
It's
Bar
a
prep
beast.
is
It's
it is easy to destroy your confidence.
Oh, easy.
So,
Easy.
Yeah. I don't think there was one day out of these 4 months that I felt like I got it.
that's crazy.
I don't think it was one day.
That's facts,
Yeah.
though.
Not
right.
one.
I ain't gonna lie to you, let's be real. There were times I cried.
Oh my
And I'm confident, right? Like,
Crying.
Absolutely.
and I'm just like, yo, I'm putting in all this effort.
Yeah.
And
I still don't know it. I'm still missing steps.
So,
Facts.
that's uncomfortable, right?
Very.
Like, so
Very.
what do you feel like was the crux of, I mean, of course, I felt like we had each other.
Yes.
You know, there were times where it's like, I'm sure there were times where you didn't want to study. There are times where it got rough and it's like, I don't want to do this no more. But outside of us, like, what do you feel like was the key to passing the bar for you? Because we were putting in that work.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I think a big part of it was the discipline, and I think having a schedule. And we all touched on this earlier, but kind of how it's like you have to have a schedule that works for you. Everyone studies differently. Different times of day work for different people. Different things work for different people. So kind of like in law school, finding the recipe that will make you successful, and also knowing sometimes when you need to take a little bit of a break. And a break can be, I mean, it's a very I guess, big word. It encompasses a lot, but when I think back on it, just kind of like when you exercise, right? Like you can't work out every single day with no breaks. Your body needs a break. You need a break when you're studying like that, when you're under such intense pressure. And so I think it was important for us to, we worked so hard and studied so hard. I also think of times when we're like, oh, hey, it's Yoshi's birthday. We can meet up for a few hours to celebrate, or it's, the bar has been extended for the 400th time. Let's go grab a drink and decompress. Or since we did the MLER program, the study program, which would be, was it 4 hours a night? 3 or 4 hours a night? We did, It was 4 hours a night. We did 1 hour with our tutor, and then we did 3 hours of an exam every week. And so even thinking the fact that we were doing that in conjunction with bar prep and our other supplements that we were using. So knowing on those days, okay, maybe I need to, take a little break between doing my normal bar prep course and studying, take a little nap before I do a 4-hour session. And so I would say all those things together and just being persistent. I think knowing like what I said earlier about what Nia said really, it was just so important because there were just so many days I can think back on, like you said, crying, feeling defeated, feeling like, is there something wrong with me? Why am I not understanding this? I'm studying it. I feel like every day there's something else in the subject that I realize I don't know. Or I'm comparing my answer to the sample answer and I have 1/18 of the stuff that it has. Like, what's going wrong? And so having to be like, oh, okay, if I keep studying, I know, I'm going to get there. You don't have to know every single thing. Nobody will. You're not gonna. I didn't at least feel like the day we set for the bar, it wasn't like today's like I felt like, okay, like let's do this. Like give myself that little pep talk. Like all right, now it's where I put on my little music. Like all right, we're getting ready. But like I was nervous. But I would say that the way that all three of us studied, we gave it every single thing we had, and the one thing I did feel when we sat for that exam is I couldn't have given one more ounce of myself. I did everything I could do. It's in God's hands now. It's above me. And so, kind of like with law school, I would say, you just have to leave it all on the table. Give it everything that you have. And the success which you want will manifest. It's inevitable.
I agree. I also think a lot of it is it's really just trusting the process. Like, knowing that I'm putting in these hours, I'm studying, I'm giving it all I have. Something has to come from this. There's no other option. There's no other option. I'm studying this hard, this long. I'm stretching myself thin. I'm stretching myself extremely.
Naked.
Stripping.
It's a rough process, and I feel like a lot of people, you can get caught up in a lot of little things. There's so much material that you're studying. This is 3 years of law school material that you're trying to study within a couple months. Things that you studied for 13 weeks. I'm watching a 3-hour lecture trying to get all that material. I'm trying to remember all that for many different subjects. It's a lot of material. It's easy to get caught up. Well, I don't know this. This one little thing, like I'm just not getting. I'm not sure. You gotta be willing to move on. Like, you know what? I spent enough time on this. I gotta move on. It's like it's no way I can continue to spend this amount of time, because you can do it. You can study for common law for 6 days.
Yep.
And look at all the stuff you missed. So I feel like you gotta be willing to move on and just trust it.
Yep.
You're gonna come back to it eventually. You doing practice problems every day.
Yep.
You sticking to your schedule. If you're doing all these things, I think you should be successful.
Yes. So yes, the first day of the bar exam. After sitting for the first day, I left feeling completely defeated. I felt like what I did on the first part of the exam, the written portion, was not an accurate reflection of what I knew, all the studying I'd put in, all the time I'd put in, all the information that I knew, and I was just very disappointed in myself. I struggled with the time, and I felt like it was very up in the air, which was a very unsettling feeling. And so I remember leaving, going back to, well, first I stopped at Subway, because you guys know I gotta get my Subway. And then sponsored.
Buy some.
I went home and I watched an episode of The Parkers, and I cried for maybe like an hour. I turned my phone off. I did a bunch of review, which I wouldn't recommend, but it was more so to just calm my mind because I was extremely down. But more importantly, what really helped me was my support system. So Nia and Yoshi, Nia called me, I remember my first call, you know, hey, just checking on you, like, are you okay? We hadn't heard from you, like, and I remember telling her, like, you know, it didn't go well, sis, like, you know, I don't know, right? And the words of encouragement that you poured into me, like, you know, no, I'm being hard on myself, I did great, all the amazing things that you said, and me then getting off the phone, turning the phone off after Nia called, and later turning it back on to a voicemail from Yoshi, which was just so uplifting and encouraging. And I remember like just being so emotional. I think the bar exam in general is an emotional time, and being like, okay, like there's still 50% of the exam left, and I can't change what's already happened, but I can change what's gonna occur tomorrow. And I'm gonna leave it all on the table. And so I remember taking a shower with this, like, my grandma got me this, like, calm and soothing bath body wash, which was supposed to, like, soothe you. So I remember being in the shower for, like, 30 minutes. I was, like, just rubbing it all over. Like, all right, is it working? Like, am I calm? And just, we went into it the second day, and I felt, like, just rejuvenated and, like, all right, well, I'm not going down without a fight. Let's do it. Right? I'll be damned after all this time we put in, everything we've been through. And I remember leaving the exam like, all right, yeah, like it's all out there. So it was really the support system, and I'm so grateful. And I'd say to anyone in the future, if you have a situation where with the bar exam, or even with the final, if you're in the middle of finals and you feel like one exam didn't go well, to one, take a deep breath, calm down, but let people be there for you. I'm so grateful for the support that you guys provided me, because without that, I don't know how I would have gone into the second day of the exam, which was an integral part of the reason why we were at where we're at. So just extremely grateful.
Yeah. And sort of to wrap up here, Nia, you said something that I want to sort of touch on and get all of your thoughts on, and it's 3 words: trust the process, right? I think it's easy to be on the other side of things as an attorney, be like, we trust the process. But being in it, you don't want to do it. To be dragged to the finish line, right? I mean, I can specifically tell you as a 2L, I was burnt out. I mean, and to your point, like, there are times when like law school and the stuff outside of law school does not stop. Personal life, relationships, losing people in your family, and you just don't want to carry on. So the bar exam, day 1 of the bar exam, it's talking about like, and until we get to the end, we gotta trust it.
Yeah.
And we gotta trust ourselves, we gotta trust the people around us, and we just gotta trust that we're going to get what we set out to do. So what did trust the process, like Nia said it, right? She just had to trust the process, but like, what does that mean to you? Anyone?
Do you want me to start with this?
Sure.
Okay. I guess trust the process to me means know that if you are giving it whatever it is, right? Studying, preparing for an exam, whatever, everything that you have, truly, like you're doing everything in your power that you can do. Trust that that is enough. What you are doing is enough. And I think with the bar exam, with law school, with where we're at now, I can honestly say, like, I would put my money, my life, anything on these 2, as far as if they say it's gonna get done, they're gonna go after something, whatever, it's going to happen, because that's the type of people we all are. We're go-getters. We're gonna do, like we said earlier, whatever it takes. And so I think, to me, trusting the process means knowing that when you give it everything you have, things will work out. Keep going, right? The faith of a mustard seed. Even if you can't see it today, right? It's going to come into fruition. Things are happening, even if you don't see that instantaneous, whatever it is manifesting. Exactly, like it's going to come together. And that was really tested during the bar exam, and I'm sure at different points in our careers and our lives in general, it will be tested again, but I think that is extremely, extremely important.
I think you put it on the head.
Yeah.
I don't think it's really, because, I mean, just reflect, like this conversation and stuff just makes me reflect on, as one of those, you feel lost. As one of those, you feel like, I really hope all I'm doing is going to pay off. And to sit here on the other side of the bar as attorneys, as people with great jobs, in a pandemic, I don't know, I'm just grateful to have y'all. Like, and so, for everyone watching, I feel like I wanted to do this video because it's so critical. Your community, people you hang around, but more importantly, like, every single part of your journey starts and ends with the mentality you bring to the table. And these 2, it really felt like it wasn't one day I felt like I could lean on them. Iron sharpens iron. I mean, literally I have iron to the left of me, iron to the right of me. And I feel fortunate that I found 2 great individuals, but even if you don't have that, I feel like you have that in your life, like whether it be your family, whether it be, you know, whoever, but finding those individuals who are going to pour into you, we've talked about, boost you, pull you when you need it, hold you accountable, like all the principles, tell you to sacrifice because they believe in your dream too. Because you got people who will say, "No, take a break," but knowing like you don't need no break, right? Like so, all of those things, I'm like so grateful that I have both of you. I'm grateful that you guys sat down with me. Is there anything else that you guys feel like we need to touch on about your success, or any last tips?
Well, one, I just want to say the feeling's mutual. Like, so grateful for both of you guys. You are just the most incredible, dynamic, powerful people, and I'm just blessed to be a part of this journey with you. One thing I would say is that whether it's during law school or the bar exam, life doesn't stop, and I think it's important during those times to lean on your support system, as Yoshi said, whoever that is for them, because there will be a time where you may have to shift your focus for a second or take a step back, and if that happens, know that even if it's us, right, for anyone watching, that we're here and we'll help you through whatever it is, because inevitably life will put different obstacles in front of you. So I would say that that's one thing to keep in mind.
One thing that I was just thinking when we were sitting here talking about, a quote that I came across when we were studying for bar prep, and a lot of times we would share things, start our day with a quote or, you know, just encouraging words and stuff like that. But one quote I came across was that you have to be able to see the end in the beginning. And that way, everything else in the middle won't matter. So I take from that, you just have to always be mindful of the end goal, where you're trying to go. And I think a lot of times it's so easy to get caught up in everything that's happening in the middle. All the times where you're down, all the times when you're just struggling, when you're overwhelmed, it can be easy to get caught up in that. But if you can see the end and where you're going in the beginning, then all that stuff is nonsense. It doesn't even matter.
Nice.
And that's it.
Well,
Love and appreciate you guys, of course. Doesn't need to say.
well, it goes without saying. I mean, so that's basically it. As you can tell, I'm very powerful people around me, so, and I'm very appreciative. I felt like, you know, every part of this journey, it took a community, right? And I wouldn't be where I am without having those days. Like, not one day goes by where I can sit here and say like I did it by myself, right? And so to be humble enough to be vulnerable enough to seek that, and to be confident enough in myself to say like, I know I'm already in a place where I can succeed, but I know there's people who can add to that. And that takes a bit of humbling and to lower your pride, the banner of your arrogance in a sense, to be able to seek that from other individuals. And so I appreciate y'all, like I said. I encourage everybody to find a circle and not a cage, because, you know, a shark can't grow to its full length in a fishbowl, right? And so if you're around those that you feel very confident around, like a shark in a little fishbowl around a little goldfish, it's easy to be comfortable. But to be around people who constantly push you, I mean, like, you know, I was always looking in Nia for like, yo, academically, I need to be on this level, right?
Yeah.
And then there were times where I'm sure y'all looked at me like relationship, like whatever it was, but we all brought something different to the table. Like, I mean, Kennedy, the way you build relationships too. Like, I look to that all the time. So I feel like just what we've learned from each other has been invaluable. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. So appreciate y'all. That's been episode 2 of the Law School Mentor with my besties.
For
lifers.
Period.
4 p.m. day, you feel me? Stay tuned. I really appreciate you guys watching. We'll keep this going in episode 3 and get into a little bit more of trusting the process. But it's been the Law School Mentor. See y'all soon.
Bye. Like, comment, subscribe.